Hello, my name's Kim and I'm a herbalist and storyteller, and today I'm sitting in my yurt space. This yurt, my husband, when he was alive, we got it just before we got married, and we actually had both our children out in this yurt when we had it up in our garden in one of our old houses. It's travelled around the world with us, and currently it's on a friend's bit of land in their woodland, but sadly it's got to come down. The planning authorities that be, and the some rather just irritated neighbour, I think, doesn't like the idea of it being here, which is a great shame, because it's a wonderful invitational space where what I try and do with a group of women, women, is every sort of 6 to 8 weeks or so, where the quarter festivals, things like, and the equinoxes come, these old historical markers of the year that orientate us in the landscape and the nature cycles. We get together and we share our stories, we share some food, and we just share where we are, and it's a really authentic place of being. So it's a great shame that it's been taken away for us for the moment. I'll show you, but it is in the woodland, so the wind's rustling. I've got a tarp over the top, so sorry, the light will change and the wind will change. We might hear the dogs barking and the birds singing, but that's all part of nature, isn't it? So what I just wanted to have a talk about today really is on the back of some talks I've been doing with the Bald Explorer and health. So it's more the broader web weaving of our health and our place as human beings, because wow, don't we live in interesting times. It's Friday the 13th, and I suspect anyone who is watching this cannot have escaped that the world has been thrown into the world of pandemic of COVID-19, and all sorts of things are going on, things that we know about, I guess, things that we do understand, things that we don't understand. We've got as I consider it, there's some useful things that come out of the media and government in our country, and then there's a lot of spin, and I've been considering a lot, what on earth has gone so wrong that so many people panic. Perhaps it's been ever thus, there's just more of us, and I was really wanting to explore and probably have a bit of hopefully I don't have a bang on really about it, the bang on or a rant, but what is it that resources us? And I have been through lots of things in my life, and from that I'm not going to do some emotional, as I would call, emotional sort of vomit process here and go on about being a victim to that, because I don't think that really helps. What I see from my own personal life and my family's life and good friends, and of course the patients I work closely with, which I'm not going to go, obviously that's all confidential stuff, but we all have things that will challenge us in different ways, whether it's our bodies, our things that happen within our family or within our work life. And the really valuable lesson and wisdom that I consider that grows out of that is when we know that we are heartbroken and we know that things happen in life that are very hard and tough and challenging, yet from that brokenheartedness we actually become greater, more compassionate, kindly people. So I'm rather curious as to why it's got such a grip, this fear of COVID-19, as if it's a shock that nature will limit us. And of course it's utterly sad if anyone has already lost someone that they love and a family member, and our hearts go out to them. Yet it's not helpful for other people to, well, the extreme isn't it? They're kind of panic buying whatever it is, pasta and toilet rolls, and I've just been in the supermarket and some old lady was saying, oh, well, I'm stockpiling on paracetamol, and it's like, well, it's only one of you, how does that work? But yes, yeah, so how under-resourced we are. And the other thing is this fear of the life-death process. And of course no one wants to die, no one wants to be ill, we don't want to see each other suffer, but it's like I think overall, probably I would think our government yesterday did quite a good job with the talk that the Prime Minister did, but there was this one sentence that rather caught my ear when he said, you know, people will lose their loved ones before it's their time. And that got me pondering, well, is there some book where it's written down when our precise time is? I'm not so sure about that. And what I want to dare to speak to today, really, beyond all the hype, because I think there's so much hype and angst and neurosis, and of course that's what sells news and social media, and it's not resourcing and it's not honest. So if I, excuse me, could but share, you know, some of the things that I know I talk about with my children and with my other family members and with, you know, other friends who've lived good, long, or, you know, some of them had short lives, you know, shorter lives than me or younger lives than me, who are grounded and resourced, and we go, wow. So let me just share a little bit about myself. So I mean, I could do it in a linear way or I could do it in a random way. What's happened? I guess, you know, I've had a miscarriage. Before I was born, my mother had a miscarriage, and let's face it, I probably wouldn't be here today if that pregnancy before her had come to fruition. The first family death that I was aware of was when I was 11, and that was my maternal grandfather. And then a few years later, my own father died when I was early teens, and on travelled the journey of grandparents falling aside, and that, you know, is very sad, and they're close to my heart. And you know, of course, the biggest journey for me has been the death of my husband and my children's father. And we are crap in our society, actually, overall, I think, of dealing with people who have had bereavements, and dealing with it honestly. It's something that gets shut away, tidied away, and I think that's part of why the people who are not resourced at the moment, maybe nothing tragic has happened to them yet, and they've had a blessed life, but you know what, we can't avoid these realities happening. We're all here because someone else has gone before us, and that's not to be blasé or negligent. What I would like to seed in our collective thinking, and to those of us that already do it, and it's a thing I often say a lot to my patients when they're struggling. So they might be coming with a bodily health symptom, but invariably there is some other backstory of a life experience that's really touched their heart, which they're tussling with, and it invariably involves grief. And we are we lazy about grief, or again, are we kind of shutting the door on it? So I say, well, remember, and I can't take credit for this quote, it comes from Stephen Jenkinson, who you can go and look him up. He writes and talks a lot on, he's written a book called Die Wise, and Come of Age, about elderhood. So he says, grieving is a way of loving that which has slipped from view, and loving is a way of grieving that which has not yet done so. I might have got that slightly wrong, but you get the gist, I hope. And when I'm talking to people, I go, they're holy twins, love and grief, because they're not emotions, they're ways of understanding and their ways of being. And once we can just be tender with both of those, our journeys with our own life and sharing with others becomes a whole heap easier. I think it's a poem, I can't quite remember who wrote it, but the gist of the poem goes, oh, you know, there's a dog outside and he's been sleeping under the house, and she realises in this poem that the dog is her grief, and really she should have brought it inside and given it a place by the fire and taken care of it. And that's rather a lovely image, I think, to reflect on. Because we're not very kind, I can tell you. I've experienced it either through having a miscarriage or the death of my husband. our culture is not very kind to people who either are in their dying process. You know, you lose friends, people avoid you, but then you find out who your real good friends are as well. And then once you've, you know, someone has lost someone very close to them, as I have, there are rock solid friends and family who thank you, I bless you, each and every one of you. But then there's people who cannot cope, and they'll cross the street to avoid you, or they'll come out and say the most ridiculous things, which is really about their own fears and anxieties. And I think this is what's, so coming back to COVID-19, I'm going a bit on a journey here, but that's what's maybe being touched, that people are realising that we are not in control. We can do the best things we can around our health and our living and take care. Sorry, the wind's picked up, another windy moment coming, but the sun's coming out. So we take care, but then, you know, we don't know. We don't know. Each day is a miracle, and beyond that, it's out of our hands.